Hello and welcome to day 74 of the 1000 Days of Nocode Challenge. In the past couple of months, we have covered so many different types of elements available in Bubble. But we had missed out on one thing, and that was deliberately missed. Today, let's look at what is a table element which is available in Bubble. Now, just to give you a context, table is much similar to repeating group, but we can use table element wherever we need to show tabular data. Table element acts more like a spreadsheet, like we have columns and rows. So let's see how table element can be used in Bubble. Let's get started. As mentioned previously, tables looks much similar to repeating group, but tables can be used only when you have tabular data. Let's see how do we apply table. So I'm going to add a text over here, and let's call this as table representation of users. Let's make it as header 2. And then I'm going to search for table element and add it just below. It has come above, so I will move it below. Okay. Now it will ask us type of content just like we had in repeating group. I'll select this as users. Data source could be just what we have in the repeating group, so I'll just copy paste, right? And then we have table direction, which is vertical, horizontal, and so on and so forth. Right? Let's go with vertical, and let's go to the layout and remove fit width to content. We can also make this as 45. Now, when we expand the table, you can see that we have row 0 and we have a row 1, which is called repeating. Now, what this means is that row 0 is the header of the table, which we had to add separately in the repeating group. Okay, so if we go to the repeating group users, then we had group header, which we were saying to be hidden unless and until the index is 1. So we were adding the header, which was added to every single row of the repeating group, and we were hiding it from all the rows apart from the first row. But in table, we don't have to do that because Bubble by default gives us the header row, and then we have row 1, which is repeating, which means anything you add from row 1 onwards will be repeating based on the number of rows that we have. So if we go to row 1 and appearance, we can see what is the row count, just like we had in the repeating, right? So I would just uncheck this so that it can take as many number of users as we have in the database, just like we did for a repeating group. Now let's go back to row 0, and we have 3 columns added over here, right? Whereas we have 4 major columns: the name, the email ID, the date of birth, and the registration date. Okay, so we will show the header and we will copy paste these elements onto our table header, right? So I'll just copy paste. Instead of recreating, I would just like to use the element that we have already added. These are text elements, by the way. So just in case if you do not have the repeating group, then you can add the text element, right? So I'm copying this date of birth from here, pasting it. Now we need one more column, and the way we add that is go to the edge of any column, right? It could also be here if you want, and you can see the plus icon, which will allow you to add additional columns. Now, once we have added this column, let's go and get the text to add the header text. Now the layout for this one is 130 fixed. So I'll select this particular column and I will make this as 130 fixed. This is more like a spreadsheet property, like you can set the column width. Likewise, we will go to this one. Date of birth is 120 fixed. I'll select column C and I'll make it as 120 fixed. Right, so we have email, which is 250 and expands until the space is available. So we will do the same thing with P, which will be 250 and expand until the space is available. Name is 200, and we will do the same thing with a column. we are done with the setting. Let's add the text in the repeating group. So I'll add a text over here, and this will be current rows user name. I'll copy this, go to the next cell, paste. This time it will be email. Copy this, go to the next cell, which is date of birth, and we will select DOB. We will also format this in this format. And similarly, we will copy this, paste it over here. Instead of DOB, we can select the creation date over here. Now let's refresh this page. Now let's preview this to see what comes up. So this is the result of repeating group. This is the table representation of the same thing. Right? We can see that each row has taken too much space. So let's go back to the table element. And once we select the row, we can set what is the height that we are looking for, right? And we can set it to 30, thereby making each row of 30 pixels height. But if the content is larger, it takes more space, right? We will also make this headers as bold, 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 and bold. So let's quickly check if this is looking nicer. So there you go. We have all things added in a tabular form. Now, because we use the same data source for the repeating group, right, which is search for users with all this filters, and for the table, we can also look for the results with the search. If I search for myself, then we have two results here, and we have the same two results being shown here. Now you can decide whether you want to use table element or a repeating group. And that's how you can use table element in Bubble. Now it's a personal choice to decide whether you want to use repeating group or table element. As you could see, the data source remains the same. Some users like to use repeating group, but a few others like to use table. So you can decide which one do you want to use. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.